Moving on to the second keynote, this is by Thornton on ransomware, a business perspective. I'm calling up on stage Mr. Jaspreet Singh, partner, clients and markets leader, advisory services, cyber and IT risk, Thornton Bharat, to deliver the keynote. Ladies and gentlemen, please put your hands together for this one.
Good evening. Good evening. So when I got an invite to speak about ransomware, I first saw what's the time given. And I saw that it's about 15 minutes, right? I thought 15 minutes, what if my presentation only itself does not load in 15 minutes? It's going to be a massacre. Then I thought, let's try and do some justice to what we would be doing. Then I saw that my slot is probably towards the end of the day. Then I thought, let's do 3-4 slides and play a cyber war game with the audience, right? So today what we are going to do is we're going to talk about 3, 4, 5 minutes maximum on what's a ransomware, etc. I don't need to preach to the choir, right? And then we're going to do some crazy question answers. And right, since I am the presenter, I get to ask all the crazy questions and I'll pinpoint. I know a lot of friends in the audience and I know many names, so I can pinpoint or I'll call you by the color of your shirt, right, or jacket. Thank you for pointing that out. So, sorry, the slides are not moving. Excuse me. So, why are we talking about ransomware? Everything is digital, right? How many of you started experimenting with ChatGPT every day? ChatGPT? How many of you? Guys, can I see some hands? Yeah, people at the back, thankfully are listening. So if you look at whatever is happening today, whether it's smart devices, AI, robotics, everything is getting interconnected. And the more interconnected it is, the more vulnerabilities are being introduced to the system. And once more vulnerabilities are being introduced, we are all getting prey to ransomware attacks. Our biggest hospital is been under attack for the last 2 weeks. Public news, right? And it's a pity, right? It's like that's the heart of the nation. Every single VVIP goes there to get himself treated. Imagine if some of this data falls in wrong hands. What will happen? A lot of people tell me, Jaspreet, why will somebody attack us? I thought, let's put a small attack vector on place. This is just an illustrative example of a company which would have multiple offices across the globe, would have web servers, etc. If you look at what's happening, it could be because of threat of intellectual property. It could be somebody actually trying to sabotage. But on the other hand, it could be somebody who's just doing pray and spray, right? Wherein I'm targeting 10, 12 companies and see which is the most vulnerable company or where I can find something where I can go in and earn some money, right? Next, please. So the question is, your main ERP application, whether it's SAP, Tally, I don't care, or whatever your main accounting application is, has been encrypted. And your backup also has been encrypted. So the question I want to ask all of you sitting here is, how many people say that, are you going to pay ransom, yes or no? Don't tell me it depends. We'll play that game. Will you pay ransom, yes or no? And what percentage of companies do you think pay ransom today? Anybody, please? More than 50, 60? No. Will you pay? Yes, no? You will pay. And you said more than 50, 60% pay ransom. Thank you so much for taking the lead. I heard somebody, yes, sir. You will not pay. Excellent, sir. Thank you so much for that. Anybody from this side? Yep. You will also not pay. So we've got 2:1. Sorry. Anybody else from this side? Will you pay, not pay? You will not pay. Just by a statistic report published by one of the leading US researchers, almost 72% companies pay ransom. But what does it depend on? Sorry, next slide. So very easy. I have not made this rocket science. Whether if you can recover from your backup, you will not pay. If you can't recover, you will obviously pay. It's a business impact analysis decision. Next slide, please. So these are the 10 considerations which I want you to answer with me. Who will take control of the situation? You are CIOs, CISOs, topmost minds in India sitting here. Will you own the situation, or will you go to your CFO, CEO and say, boss, everything is encrypted, I can't do anything? Answers? Yep. CISO will take control of the situation. Thank you so much for that answer. Yes, sir. The CFO and the CEO. Thank you. Somebody from this table? Sorry, need to make them understand? What is the situation all about? So, CISO could probably act as a person who will act as an intermediary and inform the board, etc., etc. Thank you so very much. I've had situations wherein the CIO, CISO has actually walked up to the board and said the entire data is encrypted, I can't do anything, I need help. In that case, the second question comes back, will you pay ransom, yes or no? Sir, you said you will pay ransom, right? Perfect, super. Where will you pay from? So for example, I'll give you a small tip. In India, I'm not a lawyer, but I've heard there's a law called FESMA in which you can't buy Bitcoins, you can't trade in Bitcoins, and you can't pay in Bitcoins. So if you're a company which has only got an India presence, I would want to understand where will you pay from. I did not name any agency. The hospital. Thank you for that answer. So the main question is, so the idea is, when we look at it from a tech perspective, ransomware looks like a huge, huge problem. But that's the tip of the iceberg, right? So once you've been hit by a ransomware attack, believe me, there are like 20, 30 decisions that you would need to make at runtime, and each of this decision could actually impact on how well, how fast you recover, right? So, sir, you said you'll contact the hospital. The other big problem that, because we work with a lot of boards, we encounter is, I have paid, I've got the decryption key. How will I account for that money? You're paying somebody, say, even if you're paying 1 lakh rupees, it has to hit your balance sheet somewhere. If you put it as expense, again, FESMA will come running after you. So how do you, I don't have an answer for that, believe me, right? How do you account for that money becomes very, very important, and that's where, to Sir's point, it's a decision that needs to be taken with the CEO, CFO, legal, everybody together. Who all will you inform? Who all will you inform if something goes wrong? Anybody? Certain? Sorry? Certain. Internally, employees, what if I am a user who works in your company and you've been hit by a ransomware and I'm not able to log into my machine, my endpoint? Will you inform? Will you inform? Yes? How will you inform? I'm not able to log into my machine. Will you pass this information on WhatsApp? Cryptive message, holding message. Thank you so very much. So I'm saying there is no perfect right or wrong answer on what we are trying to do, but I'm saying just imagine this is a normal conference, a semi-formal event, right? Then we are seeing so many different scenarios. What if it happens at the stress of an actual event and we are actually going through an entire ransomware attack? How many runtime decisions will you take? Let's take it a little bit deeper. Any jurisdiction challenges do you think we'll have? Yes, I see a lot of people at least nodding heads, right? Very, very common. you don't know which jurisdiction you'll deal from because they don't, the hackers don't have a jurisdiction, right? And my most favorite question, and I want almost everybody to answer this, please. Last question, who will negotiate with the hacker? Who will negotiate with the hacker? As CISOs, CIOs, whatever sitting in this room, will you yourself negotiate with the hacker? Yes, no? Sorry? So you will appoint somebody to negotiate on your behalf. You will not directly negotiate. Superb. Anybody else?
Yeah, legal team. Legal team.
Who said legal team? Sorry, if I can see.
Here it is.
Oh, this side. Okay, legal team. So suppose I am a hacker and I leave a link on the Tor browser to come and negotiate with me. How many legal experts in India would know how to log into a Tor browser? How many? I can count on my fingers 3 or 4 probably lawyers who will understand what even a Tor browser is, right? So these are some of the questions which, you would expect to go back to your board and ask and be prepared for. And that's why you see the ransomware business, it's not a CIO CISO's problem only. That's the technology part, all right? You can get incident forensic experts immediately, but these are some of the important considerations that you need to take care of. Next slide, please. And when I said stakeholders, I thought let's try and put an answer on who all would be the stakeholders. And when I thought, I actually couldn't stop on whom will you inform. It starts from owners, clients. Would you want somebody calling you from outside saying, I've heard there's been a ransomware attack? Or if a hacker posts something on Twitter or any other social media, you're gone from a brand image perspective? Or would you proactively inform your clients what if it's not a big enough problem to be informed? So who takes this decision from a business impact analysis perspective? How many of you have taken cyber insurance? I'm assuming a lot of people would have cyber insurance, right? Go back and read your cyber insurance policies. Very, very interesting. They talk about informing them also within 24 hours, right? But there will be cases, if for example in a remote site there is some machine which has been affected by a ransomware, you would not come to know within 24 hours. Then in that case, is it a violation of your cyber insurance? Yes or no? How do you play that consideration? See, it's like buying a home loan, or taking a home loan, right? Once you take a home loan, you've read the conditions. It's totally pro the builder. Cyber insurance is also like that. It's totally pro towards the company, right? How do you make sure that you've got adequate coverage from a ransomware perspective and you've got all the right clauses in? So these are the various stakeholders that you should keep in mind whenever you're dealing with a ransomware incident. Next slide, please. Again, some of the questions we've already spoken about. Do you have a communication tree? Do you have alternate means of communicating with your employees? My Active Directory is hacked, encrypted. I can't use Teams, I can't use email. Somebody here said WhatsApp. Will you pass this information on WhatsApp? Believe me, the moment you put it on WhatsApp, it's all over social media. Your brand is gone, dead. What will you communicate? Whom will you communicate it with? Communication is a very dangerous topic. It can't be too much, it can't be too little also. Do you have a holding response ready today to saying, we've been attacked or we are facing a small problem, we'll come back to you within 24 hours. That's what a company which got breached, where the website got hacked, they put it saying as a holding response, saying, we don't know what's happened, we're investigating, we'll take 24 hours and we'll come back, right? On the other hand, probably the biggest hack in India of one of the major ITS companies, how did the world know? Through Twitter. When an employee put a photograph of the ransomware note on Twitter. It was for the world to see. So these are some of the questions that, how do you communicate between the team and, who all will you communicate with? In what frequency will you update the board? Do you have retainership agreements with forensic companies? Somebody whom you can call at 2 o'clock in the night and they'll come and start before the damage is done. Legal, regulatory. Will you involve the CFO, etc.? Last slide, please. So what I thought was I'll probably do is put a RACI matrix. Try and see who will do what in terms of an actual cyber incident or a ransomware incident. Then what you do is, I tried putting almost all the major functions in an organization, saying you'll have finance, you'll have HR, you'll have legal, infosec, etc. And I tried putting a RACI matrix, saying who will do what, right? Who will communicate, who will take responsibility. Because a lot of CISO, CIO said, I will inform the board, and then it's board's responsibility. Hello, you can't just wash off your hands and say, boss, now, hey, what, Mr. Chairman, ransomware attack ho gaya, aap dekh lo, kyunki I need the decryption key, otherwise I can't do anything, right? What about looking at, can you restore or not? A leading logistics company in US, public case study, they said we'll not pay. Like some of my friends said, they said we'll not pay. In 7 days, they stopped their new orders booking and they were back to normal. They rebuilt their entire systems. But on the other hand, we all know of a case of an IT company which paid excess of $3 million to get the decryption key because the business was suffering. So these are the points, right? So nobody can today stand up and say, and that's why I put the title of the slide as to pay or not to pay. Nobody can stand up and say, in this case, let's pay, and in this case, not pay. So it's a decision, and the more you do exercises with your board, wherein you ask these questions and try and get answers, the better prepared you will be. Thank you so much. That's all I could do in 15 minutes. Thank you.